Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews joins me for today's podcast, and we're going to talk about Clemson's big rivalry matchups this season right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Just finished up last night with Walt Deptula on Road Rage. I had a great time talking about Clemson and college football and going through his top 25. If you haven't seen it, the college football poll is out and college football coaches poll is out. So we talked about that over on The Roar. But today we also are going to get into this season. I have a friend, Brett Ciancia. He reached out and we discussed the preseason and discussed Clemson, and then he allowed me to record, and so we'll have him as a guest on for segment 2 for this episode. So I'm excited for it because I love his magazine. And I think it is great if anybody, whether you're someone who is new to college football or someone who is really loving the in-depth analytics, he has a little bit of both there for you in his Picks Preview magazines. For the everydayers out there, thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. My everydayers, they know exactly how we do it here on Locked on, Monday through Friday, every single week. Exclusive Clemson content. I'm talking about it. And if you're new to the show, well, welcome in. Thanks for finding us. And you can hit that like and subscribe button and join us for the next episode so you never miss anything. You can go back and listen to previous episodes as well and all my antics and take for sure. I really appreciate all the love and support so far. We're getting in further and further into August. You know, we have fall camp going. It's really kind of rainy outside right now. I don't know what's going to be going on with practice, but it seems like for the next 35 days, we're going to have rain, after a bunch of really just hot weather. It's gruesome to fly in. Now it's raining and can't find anybody to go fly with me right now. So kind of sitting at home thinking about the Clemson football season. And there's a lot to be excited for as a Clemson fan. There's a lot to be excited for the rivalry teams as well. I mean, if you're an LSU fan coming into this season, you're pretty excited about this matchup to start out. You think that you're going to win and destroy Clemson. Clemson fans think they're going to win and destroy LSU. South Carolina fans getting in the mix as well because you can't forget your rivalry matchup, and they feel pretty good about their season too. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about those teams and give you kind of my thing that I worry about the most and thing that I know that Clemson fans can rely on the most. For me, Clemson's continuity with LSU and this matchup to start week 1 has to be that thing you can rely on the most. If you're a fan, you can take comfort in the fact that you have Dabo Swinney, that you have Tom Allen and Matt Luke and Mike Reed and Nick Eason, and you got all these guys that have been around, that know the culture, that understand the product. And if they haven't, like Tom Allen, if they're new, or Matt Luke that's newer, I mean, these guys are former head coaches. So you're not getting guys that are just having to figure it out and about what they want to do and write down everything. They already know. They've been doing it for years. They've been doing it for decades. So these guys aren't new to the program as far as college football is concerned. And they fit the culture that Dabo's looking for, the leadership that Dabo's looking for pretty well. And we're saying that we feel as if the vibe you're getting from Tom Allen is that of what we saw from the past. I don't want to continue to compare Brent Venables, but that's what we have. He is just one of those elite defensive coordinators that's in that group, so that's the truth of the matter. We know that Tom Allen brings a lot to the table, a lot of experience, a lot of energy and aggression, and a lot of really focusing on the small things to get you to where you need to be on the big stage. So I love what I'm seeing and hearing so far. If you go to practice and you hear it, he cannot be mistaken. You'll see him, you'll find him immediately because that's the kind of presence he has. Plus, also he has a megaphone sometimes as well too, so you'll be able to hear him for sure. Clemson's continuity, not just with the coaching staff and with bringing in head coaches that you feel like you can trust, but also with the leadership on the team. It starts with Cade Klubnik and trickles down, but this team is put together. It's kind of, to me, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think I am. I feel as if this is kind of the Clemson-Florida State matchup with Clemson-LSU with the same overarching subject. Clemson, retention, keeping their best players, keeping their players in general, and, really trying to continue to develop them. Now, the negative to that side, or an LSU fan may tell us, well, hey, these guys lost games last season. They didn't do very well against their best opponents. And so you still want those guys around? Yes. You would rather have the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. You'd rather have continuity versus a lot of transfer portal guys who you don't know work well together or complement each other. At least you know that Clemson, really their offense is one of the best in the country, and they return most of their players outside of Phil Maffa. So are you worried about a regression on offense? No. If anything, you think this team is going to continue to be a top 15 offense, maybe even a top 10, top 5 offense because of the returning production, because of the returning players, because of the continuity. So on the offensive side of the ball, there's no question there. On the defensive side of the ball, I think that's where you probably have an argument if you're an LSU fan to say, you got this continuity, but you got ran all over. You were like 90th in the country in total defense, and you were terrible, right? I get that. I understand that. My argument against that, or my debate for you on that one, is, yes, that is true. But when you get a new defensive coordinator that has as much experience as Tom Allen, that has been able to have success at multiple universities, you have to think that he's going to be better than Wes Goodwin, who had literally no experience. Other than watching Brent Venables, he had no true experience. So it was head scratching that Dabo Swinney even hired him in the first place, and possibly you could argue that he set him up for failure anyways from that role. Was Wes Goodwin a good football mind behind the scenes? Yes. Film room, yes. Analytics, yes. But as a leader of men, we saw that it kind of regressed, and holding people accountable to a certain level, we saw that it regressed. Motivating young men to a certain level regressed. So those areas that we felt concerned with, that we start to get, kind of degrade over time with Goodwin, we know that Tom Allen actually is really good at those things. He's your rah-rah guy. He's your aggression guy. He's your guy that's going to get in your face with the megaphone and make sure that holds you accountable in every single little minute detail. He's what you would think as a defensive coordinator. I mean, do defensive coordinators have a loud voice or a quiet voice? Do defensive coordinators, when you interview them, is their voice gone? Are they hoarse most of the time? Yes. Is Brent Venables hoarse most of the time? Yes. Is Tom Allen hoarse most of the time? Yes. So you have that kind of feel and that attitude that you're getting from Tom Allen. Now you could say, well, they're still the same players. That is true, and that is not true. The reason it's not true is that you have an area that was a big problem in one side of your defensive edge, your defensive line edge. You had TJ Parker and no one else. And then when Peter Woods got injured, then you really had to rotate some guys around, and you really couldn't keep consistency outside of Parker. Now, Peter Woods not only healthy, but slimmed down to a more athletic build. TJ Parker's still the same guy, still the same ruthless guy, going to get to the backfield no matter what. Then you got Will Helt that entered in, a true guy that from the transfer portal that was a huge pickup for Clemson. So big deal all around for me, to be honest with you. Clemson has made the moves to improve. I think Clemson's team improves, and it's who you know versus who you don't know. On the LSU side of things, I want you to prove to me why continuity doesn't matter. Because to be honest with you, on the other hand, the LSU Tigers, they have 18 new players in their top two strings, first and second string. They have 2 freshmen in there. And I know that there's a lot of talent. No disrespect to LSU. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of speed. They have a lot of athleticism. They have a lot of guys that were highly recruited. And they do have some good portal guys that we know were top of the portal or better players in the portal. But the question is, it's game one. So prove to me that those group of guys can come together very quickly and beat a team that doesn't have that obstacle. Because to me, it is an obstacle. Now, I may be inflating it because I'm from the Clemson perspective, and I can totally understand that. But I don't think I am. I do believe that this is building towards the kind of philosophy that we saw with Norvell and Dabo. It's retention versus new player acquisition, turnover. It didn't work out for Norvell year over year. I feel like I would trust Brian Kelly and LSU with who they've brought in better than what Florida State did last season. So I don't think it's going to be any, that bad at all. I'm not portraying that at all. I do think LSU has a great roster. And this is one other thing, and I'll probably make another video about this, or another podcast about this, but don't come at me with this. Well, if LSU wins or loses one game, then their season's over. If LSU loses to Clemson, then their season's over, or vice versa, because I hear that Clemson can afford to lose this game, but LSU can't afford. I think that's a bunch of garbage. I think that's a bunch of homerism to your conference. I understand that the SEC has some stronger teams, a larger amount of stronger teams than the ACC. But it's still a non-conference game for both teams. So statistically speaking, both teams can pick themselves up. And think about this way. I think the majority of analysts out there and preview magazines say that Clemson and LSU are two of the top teams in the country. So, don't come at me with if one team loses, their season's over. I don't believe that at all. It's the beginning of the season. It's two powerhouse teams in a huge matchup that has a lot riding on it. There's going to be a lot of emotion, and you never know what's going to happen on the football field. And there are 11 more games to go in the regular season. So I'm looking forward to the game. I know it's going to be a great matchup. I have some reasons why I think Clemson is going to be good at it. I have some reasons why I think LSU is going to do well. But one thing's for sure, I am ready for 25 days. All right, we're going to continue this episode and bring up Brett Ciancia. I did a recorded interview with him for segment 2 that I know you're going to love. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. When I first linked my accounts to Monarch, spending breakdown showed me how much I was blowing on subscriptions to things that I didn't even know I had a subscription to. Between streaming services and all of my aviation apps that I have, I had forgotten that trials had rolled over to monthly bills, and it was burning all kinds of money through my wallet. Seeing that number in one place really motivated me to cancel some of those things that I wasn't using and help me put money elsewhere and map out things on a day-to-day basis so it could, even though it's day-to-day, it's simple. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Look code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, Tiger fans, joining me now is one of the most respected voices in all of college football, and especially with his preseason preview magazine, Pick Six Previews, constantly ranked one of the best and most accurate preseason publications in the country, number one since 2012. You've seen him on social media. Brett Ciancia, thank you for joining me, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's that time of year again. It's preview magazine season, and really excited to break down a wide open playoff with you, but really more so talk about Clemson and why they're my pick to win the ACC.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that Clemson is your pick. That's what I want to hear, especially being on Locked On Clemson. We want all the Clemson praise going into the preseason. We need all the hype. So the more, the better right now. So hype me up as best as you can. But it's really, really cool to see how far you've brought this thing since 2012. You're Heisman Trophy voter now. You've got this magazine that I told you before we started this call that it is well put together. The graphics are great, but they're simple and easy to read. So anybody, no matter how nerdy you want to get, can just pick it up. And that's what I love is even if you're the casual fan,
You see right where you need to look for the key stuff. And then if you really want to get in the weeds, you get all the stats there too, easy to read. I love it.
Oh, exactly. Well, thanks for the praise. That was really the goal with this, and that's good to hear it reflected through the reader's eyes. And the goal was to give a nice balance between my advanced stats, but then really putting it into a readable format. No acronyms, no abbreviations. I'm talking to head coaches, talking to coordinators, watching spring games, going position by position to really make it readable for the reader. So not just for your own team, but for your 11, 12 opponents, and for all 68 in Power Four, you can catch up and get ready for 2025. So that's the goal. And yeah, you're right. It's got all the stats packages that you could want, but putting it back into a readable term.
Yeah, and I love it. Like I said, it's always a yearly thing for me. Now let's get into it. So we're talking about Clemson, obviously on Locked on Clemson here. You have them number one. So there's not much I can really beat up on you about that because I love to see my favorite team as number one. Clemson and Dabo Swinney, that's kind of where they've been used to. So it seems as if you kind of have them up there pretty high. Will they be in contention to get into the playoffs again, or is it just their best of the ACC?
Yeah, well, what I like about Clemson is it seemed like last year was almost the transitional year. And even in a transitional year, a younger roster, you had a younger quarterback, a younger receiver core. Even with all that youth and a couple losses that they took early on, they still made it to the title game, won the ACC. And I fought Texas pretty tough. I know that the score might have been a little decisive, but Klubnik and the receivers really grew up in my eyes there against one of the top defenses in the country. In fact, Clemson gave Texas their second hardest, I guess their second best stat performance going against the Texas defense, second only to Ohio State in that Final Four matchup. So opponent adjusted, Clemson did really well against Texas. But fast forward to 2025 is basically the entire team is back. I know you lose a couple starters. I mean, it's less than a handful. Phil Maffa, the workhorse running back, is gone. But I mean, overall, this is one of the most veteran teams in America. I think they are number one overall in the returning production numbers. So if you love returning starters, returning production, this is your pick. And when you look across the ACC landscape, I only really see one challenger, and that being Miami, for different reasons. But that's who I have 1-2 with Clemson winning it. Very veteran defending champion.
That's one big worry there is, we know that Miami does really well with building their teams up. We know that, they're going to have a great offensive line. If they're healthy, they should have a pretty strong defensive line as well. The biggest thing that I always say is who's got the better quarterback. So when you talk about bringing in Carson Beck versus Cade Klubnik, do you feel like that'll be if they do match up with each other because they don't really play each other during the season, regular season, but if they match up maybe in the ACC championship game, you think that's going to be one of the highlights there?
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at Miami, what I liked was their talent acquisition over the last couple of years, both the high school and the transfer ranks. They're top 10 in both categories. So I know that they're recruiting well. Their caliber of player is high. You're right about their offensive line. Mario Cristobal continues to build offensive lines everywhere he goes. But yeah, that was the big question for me was a quarterback with Carson Beck. And entering last season, he was the Heisman frontrunner at Georgia, and that just did not come close at all. Really struggled at times last year. So their question mark at quarterback to me, he also missed winter and spring ball. So that's a major question for me. And then their defense, it was pretty poor statistically last year. They made a great coordinator hire, but you just wonder how quickly can that take hold. So those were the two questions that held Miami back. Clemson, you go across this roster, I don't really see any questions at all. I'm not just saying that because I'm on a Clemson show. It's you can see it. Returners everywhere on the roster. Love the coaching staff. I love the hire of Tom Allen too, a proven guy. Tom Allen's really improved every defense where he's been. I mean, Indiana, he was churning out good units with a bunch of 2 stars and walk-ons. And last year at Penn State, they were number one in the country in my numbers on defense. So, yeah, a lot to like from Clemson. That's my title game pick, but I have Clemson winning it and advancing to the playoff.
Well, that's cool. I hope that comes to fruition there. You mentioned about the units and how Clemson doesn't have many flaws and they're returning so many. But the biggest thing with the production loss is Phil Massa. Clemson, that's the biggest question mark as far as the whole unit. They have Gideon Davidson, a guy who was a highly ranked guy, best guy out of out of Virginia coming in. But we know Dabo Swinney doesn't always like to play those young guys as early, and that's one of the big frustrations we had last season with it seemed as if all the hot shot freshmen got held out of the Georgia game until the very end. You didn't see the wide receivers or the linebackers that we were anticipating until the game was really out of hand, unfortunately. I don't know if Clemson will be able to do that again. They do have Adam Randall, who's kind of like they want him to be a Debo Samuel type guy, but can Clemson make it all the way to the playoffs with still having so many questions on the running back position?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think if in the modern game, if you had one position group that could be a question mark heading into a season and you'd be just fine, I think it's running back. And you see this in the pros, how that position might be decentivized. The importance level has gone down. Unless you have a real game breaker at running back, I think it's more important the offensive line in front of them. It's going to be opening up those gaps. And I really like this offensive line. They pack my all ACC team with multiple linemen. So I think even if it's the freshman Davidson, he's ranked the number 5 running back in the whole class this year. It's just that he's a true freshman and a little bit of an unknown at the college level, but you got to like his blue chip billing there. And Adam Randall moving over, getting some reps. He's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. So if you have to have a question mark on a roster, I'm okay with it being at running back. And when I say question, it's just that it's a new player. I mean, it's more so when I was going through comparing the running back rooms of the conference and the individual running backs. It's like I've seen Desmond Reed at Pitt. I've seen him play a couple seasons. I know what he is at the college level. Same with Jamal Haynes at Georgia Tech. Even the Louisville running backs, they shared some carries and they were dominant. So it's more like a known versus an unknown. And I'm sure that if we talk again come December, Clemson makes a playoff run, I think you might find Davidson here at the top of the All ACC board. So still high upside. It's just a question here in August.
A lot of my fans are going to love that because they want to see him early. I'm still holding out hope that Adam Randall will make the transition. So far, just to give you some insight, when we see him at practice now, starting the fall, he definitely looks the part. I mean, you know how footwork is so important at a running back position and patience when he's hitting the drills. Again, it's just drills, but if you were to film it and I never told you that he was a wide receiver last year, you wouldn't think that. He definitely looks like he's put in the work to do the right things. He's obviously studying under C.J. Spiller, who's the guy who went to the NFL, was a great running back for Clemson, Hall of Famer. Another thing that stuck out to me in your Pick Six Preview magazine for 2025 was that Clemson actually has one of your cool bar graphs at the bottom. They actually have something that they haven't had in the past couple of years, and that is a blip on the map for transfer talent acquisition. Normally, Clemson is 133, 115, and it's usually, I can tell you, because Dabo brought in a backup quarterback to hold a clipboard and become a graduate assistant, or maybe, to help him bring the boat in and tie it up at the dock. I don't know. But obviously now Dabo, for whatever reason, shockingly enough to all of Clemson Nation, decided to join the transfer portal ranks. And I think that's the way to do it. Just supplement where you're not having success recruiting. Clemson and Dabo want to make sure that recruiting high school ranks is number one for them. But there's nothing wrong with supplementing where you can. And the biggest gap was that run defense, and specifically one side of the run defense was not there. They've added in Will Help from Purdue. Is that going to be good, or is that just, a transfer player guy that they got to show that they can do it?
No, I think it's a significant addition. And when you look at it, the defensive linemen and offensive linemen, they're the hardest to get out of the portal, the most expensive, the most sought after, the most competitive races. So to sign one of these guys, and he was rated the number 7 transfer edge this cycle. So defensive end, number 7 in the country. He also made my all transfer team, which sounds silly, but you have an all American and all ACC. But nowadays, with all this player movement, I put in an all transfer team, and he's on there coming in from Purdue. And you're right about the transfer graph here. It's funny because I have the last 5 years of high school recruiting, the last 2 years of transfer, and then I have this other column on the right, the mock NFL draft picks. So while Clemson barely has anything in the transfer department, the more important column is that mock NFL draft. And right now, Clemson's sitting number 2 in the country for next year's draft. I know it's early, but with 12 draftable prospects already projected. So what Clemson reminds me of is back when I started Pick Six Previews, an old-fashioned team that would recruit, develop, and then have a veteran team every couple of years. So I think that's where we're at. They're now the veteran style of Clemson, and they're ready to cash in with a lot of W's.
Yeah, this is the year. I think this is the contract year for many of those, as you mentioned, 12 guys that you think go into the NFL. If they're going to the NFL, that's a great stat to have, but that means they won't be here next year. So it's always a love-hate relationship for that development, especially in college football. You can't keep them around forever. Well, most of them anyways. But I appreciate it, Brett. Hey, let our viewers, listeners know exactly where we can find you, where they can get a magazine, where they can follow you throughout the football season.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, it's only available on pick6previews.com. We have the digital version, a PDF. We have a hard copy magazine, spiral bound edition that ships out within a day or two. And for those days that it is shipping, you can you'll have access to the digital right away. So you get the combo. That way you get access immediately. And yeah, on there we have a couple sample teams, testimonials, and would love to have you on board. Go check it out, pick6previews.com.
I appreciate it again, Brett. Thank you so much for giving us some insight on our channel, Locked on Clemson. And again, thank you so much for putting together Pick Six Previews again for the 2025 season.
Absolutely. Good luck, Clemson, this year.
Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. A few summers back, I played 18 holes with a couple of buddies of mine, and one guy challenged us to a ridiculous, crazy contest closest to the pin. Box was backed up behind a cart path lined with trees. I chunked it so bad the ball didn't even reach the fairway. He topped his and bounced into a trash can. We all had one big laugh, but golf is about good times with friends, making ridiculous challenges like that, and knowing that you can get through a full 18 with 5-Hour Energy shot in your golf bag to go through the back nine. Golf is all about good times with good people, good flavors. Of course, grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse to go without chasing down that beverage cart. If you go over to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order fusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. All right, I wanted to finish up the show. I know we're kind of already through the episode, beyond our 30 minutes, or getting close to our 30 minutes of an episode. I don't want to keep you too long, but I did want to give you a little bit of thoughts, and I put them over on X at the Morgan about South Carolina as well. You know, we've got two big games, start the season and to end the season. I kind of wanted to look at them just at a glance. Know what I said earlier from LSU with South Carolina. If you were to tell me, if I was a South Carolina fan, what should I be confident in? Well, you should be extremely confident in Lenoir Sellers, that he's a superstar. I think he's going to step forward. We saw him kind of turn the corner in 2024 and take some of the typical powerhouses of the SEC to the limit. He won some games that I think he shouldn't have, and he lost some games that I think he should have. So can he put it all together and really take that next step to elite status? They already have him as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the nation going into 2025. You know, if you're from South Carolina, how lethal he was. If you follow high school football in Florence County, you know he is extremely dangerous down there, lower part of the state. And now that he's with South Carolina, it just adds to that lore. To me personally, I'm not a South Carolina fan at all. You know that, but I don't mind seeing a in-state guy do well on a national stage. I'm a South Carolinian, born in Anderson, and you know when I see I know our state doesn't have like a powerhouse pipeline of the best football players in the country. I understand that. But when we do, I want to champion those guys. I like to see them do well. Or for South Carolina, just not so much when they're playing Clemson. That's for sure. But Norris Sellers going to be a superstar, is already a superstar in my mind. The edge rush is still there. You lost a few players on your defensive front, but you still got Dylan Stewart. You still got that guy that can get to the backfield at any moment and really frustrate any quarterback. And you need that in college football. I think that is, to me, if I was to give you my formula for winning college football games, it would be don't allow any quarterback more time than they need. It is to get to them as quickly as possible, frustrate them in some way. If you don't get there, at least push the offensive lineman into his path or into his bubble to disrupt that timing, that footwork, whatever you can do. I think that the elite defensive players in the country focus on that as number one. Is we're not going to sit back. I'd rather play straight up man, cover zero, and pressure you as much as I can, because I feel as if the odds are in a college level, you're going to frustrate them more than give them big time shots downfield. If you sit back and play, my dad always said, play prevent defense. Prevent defense, he always said, was preventing you from ultimately winning the game, because you would just sit back and let them dink and dunk you, and then they would score and you didn't know what to do. So prevent defense really didn't prevent anything other than from you winning the game. So I like that aggression. I like playing straight up man on the outsides. I like playing cover one. Cover zero is kind of pushing it, but to me, I think frustrating the quarterback is key. South Carolina is going to be able to do that. Wide receiver potential as well. We know we have Mazio Bennett, Barber, and they have a few other guys to add in the mix that I'm looking forward to seeing. Curious to see how their defensive line will do, how their offensive line will do. Lenore Sellers did great under an offensive line that really was kind of terrible. Don't know if they've really improved that at all, unfortunately. So they added a ton of transfers. We know that, but dependency on transfers is a kind of a big crystal ball still. You don't really know what you're going to get during the season with a bunch of brand new guys. So South Carolina should continue to improve. They're going to be a difficult matchup. They beat Clemson last season. So Clemson starts and ends the season with two SEC teams that are going to be pretty difficult to win. I think Clemson can win both those games, but it should be a great matchup between two teams that have a lot of firepower on both sides. I appreciate everyone being a part of the show today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, signings. Be the most informed fan of all the rapid changes in the college football landscape. Find the Portal over on YouTube or wherever you listen. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.